The draft also fascinating this year. 43 trades made, 14 quarterbacks drafted, and I would say the NFL succeeded with the help of the general managers of making this a drama-filled draft. The biggest surprise for me was just the fact that the Texans were able to keep it quiet, that they were going to draft C.J. Stroud with the number 2 overall pick, and then, of course, they trade up to number 3 and draft Will Anderson Jr., so they get flagship pieces on both sides of the ball there for an organization that is desperately trying to win some football games. It seems like forever since the Texans have been relevant. What stood out the most, though, for you in this draft?
Oh, Anthony Richardson going at 4. Now, I'm not surprised because of the kind of physical specimen he is.
Mm-hmm.
But, I checked this. Since 1990, of all the quarterbacks taken in the first round, there's only one quarterback who threw fewer passes at the college level than Anthony Richardson, and that's Trey Lance. And in this day and age, the ability to teach a quarterback in the offseason when you don't have, as extensive a practice time and you're not going full speed as much, and training camp where you don't get the same kind of reps, and in preseason where you're limiting the exposure you have with veteran players and important players. The process, Anthony Richardson is as talented as it gets. He's a unicorn of an athlete, and he's an exceptionally wonderful human being. I lived in Gainesville, Florida for a long time. I haven't been there for a couple of years, but I know all the people who know him, on a kind of an adult level, because he went to the same high school that my sons went to. So I know a lot of the people there, and I asked about him, and everybody swears this is a really great kid, very mature, but he just hasn't played quarterback. And I also know that the high school program that he played in wasn't very good, and I'm being generous right there. This is not like Bryce Young, who went to Mater Dei in Southern California,
right,
which is basically a small college program where you get very sophisticated coaching and very sophisticated offense. But all of that said, I think Anthony Richardson went to as good a place as he possibly could, because the owner in Indianapolis, and say what you want about Jim Irsay, and the issues he's had and all those kinds of things, but he worked on the personnel side before he took over as the owner from his father. And so he understands football probably better than 90% of the other owners out there. So he's one guy who has patience. But the process of teaching this kid how to be quarterback, it's tough. Peyton Manning threw 1,300 passes in college. Anthony Richardson threw 393.
I'm trying to think of another comp of somebody who didn't have that much experience in college, and I can't. You mentioned Trey Lance, but I'm trying to think of another guy who only was a one-year starter and then went on to have success in the NFL.
Kurt Warner is the great example, right, of a guy, but he wasn't a first-round pick, and so
sure.
there's never any expectation when Kurt first came into the league. So Kurt got to sit on the bench, and he got to go play in the World League and throw a lot of passes there. And, he earned his spurs in a different way, right, until he finally got his chance. So I'm not saying it's impossible to do this, but everybody in Indianapolis is now waiting with bated breath for when is Anthony Richardson going to play? Is he going to play his rookie year? Is he going to get in by the second half of the season? Or is they're going to wait the full season? Maybe we'll get him in the second season.
Well, if you listen to Jim Irsay, he's going to play out of the gates because he wants to see Anthony Richardson out there because he doesn't feel like he can get better as an NFL quarterback by watching from the sideline. It's interesting when you talk to people about this, there are differing opinions.
Absolutely.
I think Daniel Jeremiah from NFL Network, to me, probably had the smartest plan, called it a hybrid plan. Let him watch 4 or 5 games, but then give him double-digit starts as a rookie. But when you hear the owner say, I want him out there playing, I think he needs to play to get better, I wouldn't be surprised to see Anthony Richardson start 17 games for the Colts.
I wouldn't either, but I will also say this. Jim Irsay can be out on the practice field and see if things aren't that good.
Right.
and probably say, and if Streichen comes to him and says, I don't think he's ready, Irsay will say, okay, I get it. Let's not do this.
Yeah.
And this is not the same thing as Andrew Luck, who threw a lot of passes at Stanford, or Peyton Manning, who threw a lot of passes in college, right? It's a different situation. So, yeah, Jim Irsay had a tremendous amount of success letting those guys play from day one. This kid's not the same in terms of experience. I think in terms of intellect, maturity, responsibility, he's very much the same. But nothing replaces the act of throwing a ball against an all-out blitz, against a zone cover, a zone blitz scheme coverage, and you've got to change your arm angle at the last second because of the way the tight end is running, is running down the seam, right? Or how the slot receiver is running down the seam. I mean, there are just things he has not done and has not done as much as other people. I always remember saying this about Mark Sanchez, who had basically 2 years as a starter at USC. And I told his agent when he came out after his junior year, I said, he should stay one more year. He goes, well, he's never going to be drafted this high. I go, yeah, he might not be drafted this high, but that doesn't mean he's going to be successful. You want him to go out and have another 400 throws in college and learn the process. And Mark had a decent career, butt fumble aside,
right,
and all the other silly things. I mean, Mark ended up having a pretty okay career, but it wasn't what they certainly wanted when they took him with what I think it was the number 5 overall pick. That was not the plan that the Jets had.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.